Hello, welcome to Pods the Multiverse. We are an unofficial D&D podcast where four friends get together and play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Jeppy. I am the host, but not DM, for our anniversary special. This is our second episode. We're going to dive into some fun topics like music, art, some of our favorite moments, and how we plan and approach different aspects of DMing. And let's just hop into that last bit there. And we're going to do... We'll start with structure, and then we'll just slowly devolve, like anything I run does. How do we plan a season, and any changes that you are anticipating in your planning process for the next round? Start with Andy.
Oof. So, broadly speaking, I try and have a quest in mind, and that may seem very sort of antiquated, especially once we got around to what Jimmy and Jeppy did. But that is like truly what I enjoy about DMing. One of the things I enjoy about DMing. So that's where I start. What is the overall party goal? What is the sort of narrative that you want this season and this campaign to be about? Like for Theros 1, I sent all of you, like, heroism and being a hero, and a couple of other, words to start the ball rolling on some ideas and inspiration. All of that on one hand. And then on the other hand, once I get characters from everybody, I look at backstory, I look at personal goals, if any, and then I try and marry those two hands together. And that's where I really get into how the season is going to play out. In season 1, it was trying to hone in on a game-by-game narrative. I had a lot of details planned, but then, as all four of us learned, that doesn't happen. And so, going into season 2, I'm not as rigid episode to episode as far as what needs to happen for the sake of plot or quest or personal growth or anything like that for the characters, but I am still trying to meet a certain number of, like, events that I want to hit on, unfold in certain parts, beginning, middle, end of the season, which is something I took from Jimmy, from Emberon. And it's not necessarily about, like, this specific thing needs to happen in game 2. It's more about, like, this should happen in the beginning of the season, this should happen somewhere in the middle of the season, and this has to happen by the end of the season. And just going from there.
Okay.
The way I like to build out an adventure that I learned from a lot of the adventure modules that I've played and the adventure paths that I've played in, is you start with your antagonist. They have a objective and they have a timeline and they have things that they're going to do. And with season 1 of Ravnica, it was really easy because they had already done all of it. And it was kind of up to the players to put that together and go and do something about it. With season 2, I want to get broader in terms of what's happening, and in terms of the characters' abilities to actually interfere. The plan has not succeeded yet, and there are some things that are just going to happen because. Actually, I can't even say that. There are some things that I very, but because, maybe you find, like, a secret door and or a secret dialogue option, so to speak, yep. And you, like, are able to subvert something. But I have some things that some events that I highly anticipate happening, and I have some that are much more up in the air, where, like, you're gonna have big opportunities to interfere, but I have what are the steps that the villains are going to take, and from there it's like, how are you going to respond to them? That's how I'm planning going into season 2.
Player me is very interested in that. That sounds interesting as hell. Love that. For me, it was planning around I don't want to use this word. It's so like full of itself, but I can't think of anything else. So I'm just going to say like a thesis statement. I wanted to have a theme. I wanted to have a statement that I made with this campaign. So that was building block number 1. And then, as I mentioned in our last anniversary episode, everything from there was story beat driven, which a lot of that I like and a lot of that I regret. But that was it. It was building these story beats, and then like the nuts and bolts of planning. I used homebrew, and I exhaustively planned every single detail of every single session for the first, I want to say 5 games, which didn't go to plan. There were whole entire scrapped episodes, but like, you know, I built what is essentially an adventure book from the homebrew website to account for every little possible role or anything you could do. Never doing that again, because it was a lot of, not even, I think there are a lot of problems with it from a player agency perspective, but also just a lot of wasted time. Like a lot of that doesn't need to be written down. It shouldn't be written down. So that's what that is. And then my approach for season 2 is, it couldn't be more different. And I'd say it's really picking lessons learned from all of you, the 3 of you. And a lot of inspiration from Scala's approach as well. And just to kind of put it out there, basically, my approach next time around is going to be, instead of thinking about the place you need to be at the moment, this is the entire world of Icewind Dale. Here are the places you may go. And the reason why will be determined when we get into that world and see what you 3 do. If why at all. Like if you go there at all, we'll figure out the why together. But when you are there, I have a world for you to play in. And I have encounters, and I have people that will be there, and different things to interact with. So it's building the place, not the story, for this time.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with everything that's been said so far.
Yeah, we've all felt this pain, if in different ways, but the same pain. It's difficult, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And especially, I think, recording on mic a game and DMing it was a new experience, I think, for all 4 of us, right? And so there was this impulse to make sure that every minute of this is going to be entertaining, and to plan 12 sessions that are packed with content. And then, things stretch and characters have more to say than what you want them to say or thought they would say. And so what ended up happening was I wrote pretty much every episode what I wanted to happen in each episode. Then I realized that's not going to happen. So my Zendrick season got reduced to basically a list of set pieces, like what action scenes do I want to happen? And then as far as character development and narrative, it all comes from the characters anyway. So you guys found very interesting ways to move your characters forward while gluing together these action sequences. And then just also this idea that every NPC exists in the world, has their own motivations, and are going to act according to those motivations. So knowing all of them, I think, was an important thing too. What is possible, like what's within the realm of possibility. So going into the next season that I'll be planning, instead of trying to figure out with perfect clarity like what's going to happen in each episode, it's kind of more like I have pretty good clarity on what's going to happen in the first episode, and then as we get later, it gets blurrier, right? And like the scope of possibility gets wider as we go out further towards the end of the season. And I'm a last minute planner anyway. I'm doing most of my planning, a couple of days before we actually record the sessions. Mm-hmm. So why am I torturing myself by writing months in advance things that aren't going to end up happening anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
See what happens in the session, then see what happens next.
Right. To mirror that, yeah, I mean, just to peel back the curtain a little more, like the approach for me is I very much know where session 1 is going to be, because you have to, because it's session 1.
Of course.
Everything after. I will not be, I will be building the locales if we go to those places so that they are there and I don't have to put a ton of pressure on myself in the week between recording sessions, but that is it. And then otherwise, I've said it before and I'm happy to say it again, like I plan for this to be the last season of Icewind Dale. So theoretically, I know where the last session is going to be as well, but that is truly it. Like the first and the last, and everything else it's a waste of time. It's not a valuable endeavor to plan every meticulous detail of what comes in between, because you shouldn't be you're only so in control of it.
But being prepared,
exactly.
Having like one sentence for like what exists there,
right? Having
like,
some encounter table,
and,
like some encounter tables ready to go. Like that's all really helpful, because doing that in the span of a week is a lot. We all have shit going on, whether it's for the podcast or personal lives. Like that stuff I want to iron out, right? That's important to just have in your back pocket, because that can be planned completely independent of player choices. This is an encounter table. It's pretty simple. Speaking of designing encounters, let's talk about DM approach, because this is something that comes up in the Discord a good amount. People asking about how we do encounters, or what map stuff we use, what equipment we use. Like it's fun, like, because all of us do things so much differently. So let's talk about like approach from the DM chair, and we'll start with encounter design.
Okay. This came up a little bit in last week's anniversary episode. As far as my approach to this kind of stuff. And it is that I fully believe that the biggest aspect of fun or engaging, if you want to use those words, encounter design comes from it being actually very difficult for the players. If every encounter in a season is easy, then what's the point of the heroes being the PCs, And it's like, it's the same thing with like leveling up. It's like, well, I've got all this new stuff as a 7th level character, but I don't need to use half of it to get through this dungeon, so why do I have it in the first place? You can apply that logic to a lot of different things. And so for me as a DM, something that I really enjoy doing is like sort of throwing out a lot of what the books and online resources have to say about like challenge rating, or how they navigate action economy for encounters. Because like you've noticed on Theros, practically everything has lair actions when it comes to my encounters. More than half of things have legendary actions. It's a way to sort of front load danger in a very exciting way that I really enjoy doing. Because it also means that you get to use all the stuff you have. And I like giving people stuff. I like magic items. Yeah. I like the piety system in Theros for the most part. So much fun. So yeah, that's where I come from in encounter design. I think not necessarily, I'm trying to kill you, obviously, but it's like finding that balance between threatening and exciting, and you don't know how this is going to go by the end of the fight.
Yeah. I just one quick thing I want to know is I was asking all three of you for advice as I was building out encounters, and just as an aside, I remember asking about CR, like using that as a guidepost, and Andy was like, ignore it. Do not. The advice was don't.
Well, I would caution
you had more to say about it, but like broadly I walked away from that and decided against using it as a binary of like, this is correct and incorrect.
Yeah. As newer DMs, I think it's an okay reference, because again, I'm coming from a place where I don't mind building a very complicated encounter, albeit again, sometimes in Theros 1 that got me into trouble because it was sort of overcomplicated. But anyways, for newer DMs, or even for just people who don't have time to build out these huge mechanics, CR is not a bad place to start, especially at lower levels, because 5th edition doesn't really scale past like CR 10 at all anyways. But at low levels, especially for players, like if you have a party of 3 or 4 and their levels 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think CR is actually pretty helpful. But those things aside, it gets far less intuitive.
I think what's more helpful than CR is thinking about the monster's action economy. How many attacks do they get per turn, and how much damage on average are they doing? That's the main thing, I think, for me. And then also using, past precedent, because there's really no way to sum up what a party is capable of until you see them in action. So that's why I don't feel like, I didn't feel like I was able to properly do that T-Rex encounter until I saw how you guys handled the fire elementals. Just knowing how much HP you guys can burn through in however many turns, and how much damage is the monster going to incur in that amount of time. But also I've learned that you really have to overshoot how difficult you want to make the encounter, because player characters are capable of a lot in general, and especially players who know their kits pretty well, and all of us at this point are well versed enough in the rules to use our kits effectively in most situations.
Yeah, Scala.
Jeppy, name me 3 different artificer infusions.
Off the dome, I don't have them, but I do have a list. I do have a list on my character sheet that I plan to use when we hit level 9.
Certainly is a list.
What's that?
There certainly is a list.
Yes. Yeah,
I
mean, let me be clear. I have a list that's not just a screenshot of the book. I have a list of mine that I want to use when I hit level 9.
Okay. All right. Anyway, what was I saying there? I was just saying that I think that it is very unlikely for a TPK to happen in the circumstances that we've set up for the most part. Like, unless this has been said before, I think, in one of the table talks, and I don't remember if anybody had a good example, but have we ever actually been very close to losing an encounter as players? Like, really close?
Jalen.
The closest would be Jalen.
The closest would be Jalen.
Maybe the dragons in Theros 1?
Across all campaigns, I would have to say Jalen and the dragons in the Volcano Temple, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else has really risen to that level.
Perhaps, had the dice really gone the other way, the second phase of Marukios as well.
I think Fel Barash was closer than we give it credit for. A lot of us were like really low on hit points. I think I was in single digits. Andy was in single digits.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I think Jimmy was halfway and Ezek was close to down. So yeah.
And but the only thing that spared us from Jimmy's real final boss was the fact that we had enough healing resources at 7th or 8th level that Alfonso going down
twice
wasn't a huge concern.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I want to know about encounter design that I think I was able to bring in the back half more of Theros, maybe the whole time, but it was one thing that Scala said to me, and these praises clearly stuck with me, which was having a way of making your encounters feel real to the characters that are a part of that encounter, which is definitely important to me. And then especially once Scala told me that, I thought about it a lot more as well. So when tweaking, especially humanoid-based kits, it's like, I want that kit to kind of seethe with their personality as well. That's really important to me. And another thing I want to mention is, I agree with you, Andy, about about encounter difficulty and finding ways to use a lot of the kit. I am curious what everyone's thoughts are, though. And to use video games as an example, there's a difference between a challenging raid encounter and being in Diablo and doing millions of damage and killing a bunch of tiny little things. So, is there something to be said about the small combat where you get to feel like you're just slapping shit left and right and killing it?
So I don't think that. All right.
And I'm not implying that you're saying those are unvaluable. Yeah. I'm curious what your thoughts are on them.
So I actually have some pretty strong opinions on this, because I know the four of us like to go, or at least 3 of the 4 of us like to go to video games really quick when it comes to trying to make comparisons for tabletop. Yeah. And I think some of those are okay, but when it comes to combat, I think it's really dangerous to make those comparisons so quickly and so readily.
Yeah.
Especially looter shooters like Diablo. They do not translate at all, and those kinds of situational marginal encounters like you're talking about in D&D, I consider purely as resource management
sinks. Obstacles,
resource sinks, and that's it, right? It's you got into this random encounter against these shitty shitty returned, right? Let's say it's like they're not gonna kill you unless something goes horribly wrong. But maybe they'll make you waste a higher level spell slot, or maybe they'll make you waste this piety thing or this once a day thing. It's like, that's really all it is.
Yeah.
And then you have the bigger encounters that are really actually, the tests of, are you going to make it out of this okay?
For sure.
I think that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I also think that those sort of those tax encounters serve an important narrative role, because we don't always want to see the heroes when their backs are against the wall. We want to be reminded of why they're cool and why they're heroes.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And it makes it, in the setting of a dungeon, it makes the dungeon more alive. Like, dungeons should be crawling with things, Like, it shouldn't just be, the dungeon is a place that leads you to the boss, which I'm not saying any of us do that. I'm just saying another merit for those random encounters.
For sure. And that is also weirdly another thing that is hard to translate to radio, because that's usually a lot more fun and engaging for a table of people playing at home. It's all of those little random, you ran into a gelatinous cube, you ran into whatever, like,
yeah.
That's really home gamey. It's like, here are all of these little encounters and we're going to slog through it. Whereas, like, that sort of looter shooter dungeon, for an hour or two in audio gets really boring.
Yeah. Speaking of dungeon, I would like to talk a little bit about our approach to exactly that. And I want to broaden it more than just dungeons, though, because what the world also outside of, like, also other kind of skill challenges and other encounters that aren't combat based. Like, what is your approach to building those, Whether it's the fucking chase sequence where maybe one of your players throws a frisbee. What are our approaches to that?
Well, I guess you're calling me out.
I'm not saying you encouraged nor planned the frisbee, by the way. That was
you were on a college campus. It wasn't even my idea, but it made sense.
It did.
I tend to use a variety of levels of planning as I've gotten more comfortable with the game. I think when I was first starting in the hobby, I was very meticulous, and I would plan every skill check, every possible encounter. But having more experience, you develop a sense for, like, what somebody's going to want to roll in a given circumstance or not. So you're able to play a little faster and looser and improvise. So that whole chase sequence was pretty much improvised. I was like, well, I know I want you to go from here to there. How are we going to do this? Let's have it be a chase. And how are we going to do this? Well, we'll have you roll some skills and we'll see what makes sense. But the vaults in episode 9 or something, that was a dungeon. I had it meticulously laid out. There were some things that you didn't encounter, but for the most part, you found everything in that dungeon. And I don't think there's a value judgment to be placed on either type of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like certain things serve different narrative and game purposes, and it's just good to be able to have a big toolbox that you can pull from what you need.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned toolbox, because there's one thing I want to talk about, which was a lot of my approach in season 3, for better, but a lot of for worse, which was my approach was novelty. Like, I wanted to try things that weren't, that were novel and not in the book, and something that I completely made up. And I think sometimes that worked. I am still really proud of the ice wall, but other times I don't want to entirely say it didn't, but other times I just think there was probably a resource there that would have been way easier to manage and streamline, like the boat encounter stuff. So my approach a lot of the time was novelty, and that's going to be another thing that changes going into the back half. I think I'm still going to aspire to find things that feel novel. Like, if I come up with an idea that feels fun, like the ice wall, I'm not going to say, well, I can't do novelty. But I think I leaned on novelty as a crutch in my encounter, in my dungeon and kind of skill challenge design. And that's one thing I want to get away from, is like use the toolkit that's already there, whenever possible. And if something light bulb moment happens for novelty, run for it, but don't rely on it.
Sure. Yeah, because the rules in the book are play tested.
Yeah.
Is the main thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you can come up with something novel, like I did with the storm, that whole find shelter from the storm sequence, but like not really extensively play tested. We played it once before we did the actual session, and it was like twice as long as I wanted it to be when we were actually recording it.
Yeah.
Just because the mechanics weren't anything with precedent.
Something that I can touch on in regards to this subject is like just general skill challenges and sort of encounters beyond just combat encounters when it comes to places and dungeons and things. I really like taking from, funnily enough, precedent of what other DMs do. I do listen and watch quite a bit of D&D content, not nearly as much as I used to, but I really like just taking things that I like and sort of mashing them all together and going from there. I mean, like the classical skill challenge that I use, the rigid, like, you can't repeat a skill that somebody else used, you have to be proficient, all of these stuff, and you have like a progress bar and all this. Like that comes straight out of what another DM uses. Even the siege, like that was pre-existing content that I was like, man, this would be like perfect for this campaign.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like designing dungeons and stuff, it is I'm pretty similar to Scala on this. It's like a lot of stuff I'm just sort of feeling out because it's stuff I'm pretty experienced with, like random encounters and different things, but then stuff like the Volcano Temple, 1, and the Forgotten Temple, 2, where you found all of the Clothis stuff, and ultimately, wound up encountering the Eater of Hope. Like, those were 2 very fleshed out places. And although, like, the parameters of distances and where everything in each room exactly were might have been a little more malleable, I had charts and little maps and things of, like, this is what these places look like as you're navigating through them. And I think that's still, like, a decent enough approach to use, even on audio, because I think it just makes running it pretty easy.
Definitely agree. I have a few things as well that help me, and I'm glad you brought up maps and stuff because that's the next thing I want to ask, which is like, what is our setup, right? Like, and I think for this one, let's just go around in DM order. Like, what's your setup when you're DMing? What tools do you use? What's your toolkit?
So mine has become much simpler over the course of this entire project. I used to have like every hardback book out and all of these different things open to all of these different pages.
I remember, oh my god, you would be like grabbing one book and putting another one in your lap, and all of them would have 25 sticky notes in them.
And it's like, okay, that's fine, but let's be a little more streamlined here. So I can tell you what I'm still using from my original approach, years ago, and that's I do like having a physical DM screen in front of me, even when we're recording. Because I actually think the things that are on it are really useful in a pinch, particularly all of the condition statuses and rules.
Yeah, that's a good call out there. Yeah,
you're also always really quick with like weapon ranges,
and that's on there too. And actually, I have a couple of little cutouts that I made. Like, I can hold this one up. It's like a half a sheet of paper, and it's the print off of all of the basic weapons and armors and their attributes. And I have that taped to the DM screen because that's not actually on the DM screen. So I have that. And then I have a small notepad for just writing down initiative, which I write all the PCs in on every page, like before the session starts, with a little like line where their different initiatives will be for however many encounters I plan on in the session. And then I'll just throw down like whatever else might be in the game. And if I have to write in something that wasn't supposed to be in the game, I'll do that. But I'll have just like a little sheet for combat, and also just like writing down any like 1 or 2 words that a PC says that I'm like, I have to pick this up and run with it. I'm going to write it down on this notepad, which I've done a couple of times. And then other than that, it's, can I just say 5e.tools?
Yeah, 5e
okay.
tools.
So other than that, it's a very, very useful, or at least what I think is an incredibly useful little app, and it's the DM screen on 5e.tools. This is something I've switched over to using almost entirely when it comes to running combats or looking up mechanics. It's a virtual DM screen that you can slap literally anything on. It is incredibly useful. And it's what I've been using for
holy shit,
pretty much
awesome.
Everything.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. This is great.
Yeah, it's modular. You can put whatever stat blocks you want or whatever rules text. If it is published rules text, you can put it on this screen, and it's perfect. So I use that, and then I just use my game notes, which are also on my iPad. So it is literally an iPad that has 2 screens on it, and the DM screen and my notebook, and that's it.
Okay.
I am very minimalist in my setup. I have here the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, but I would have with me the whatever source book or whatever personal notes I would have for the campaign setting. And then I have a notebook with the general layout of the environment and space where I can track initiative and track damage. And then I have a bunch of tabs of Google Docs open where I've written the individual stat lines of any monsters that I expect you to encounter. And that's about it. I'm lucky that I have a very good memory, and can kind of hold the various relevant NPCs and sort of plot details in my mind, though, I fuck up and forget things on occasion. So, maybe some more deliberate note-taking there would benefit me, but for the most part, I can remember them. So, that's all I've got.
For me, and round 1 of Icewind Dale is going to be so different than round 2, but what I did for round 1 was 2 tabs. One tab was my home brewery, which had literally, like I mentioned earlier, exhaustive notes about every single thing that can or would happen. And then the other is an Excel spreadsheet, which is how I track skill challenges, encounters, combats. What I usually do is I have a row for character, row for initiative, row for ailments, row for remaining spell slots, row for HP, and a row for AC. And that's how I run combat. It's just from that Excel, like that block of rows and columns that guides me through the whole combat. And honestly, it's if there's one thing I can give myself credit for is I don't think I ever fucked up an initiative order in all of season 3. It really helped. I think I missed a couple ailments here or there, but I don't see myself changing this approach. It really works for me.
Tracking conditions is so hard.
It's such
conditions
a pain.
And concentration, there's probably at least one continuity error every episode. At least.
So tough. So that's how I run combat. For skill challenges, I have every player character and if NPC. I'll have a line for each of them to write down what you rolled, and then I'll have 2 other lines for the average and the sum of all of your rolls, so that I can quickly calculate if you're going to beat a skill check or not. Anytime there's a boss or a DM NPC, I put their stat block directly as a screenshot in the Excel sheet as well. I see changing for season 2, it'll probably be a little bit more of like what Scala just described, maybe even a touch of Andy. Fuck it, there may even just be 5e tools happening. I haven't decided. I want to play around with that toolkit, but I'm going to be reading more from the book and from like pointed notes about like what you can learn in a given space, instead of this whole home brewery everything prescriptive approach that I had before. And dice. Sorry, I have dice.
Dice.
Yeah. Dice.
We all have dice.
We all have dice. You have blue dice, Andy. You have different dice. The shit's
We do use real dice, which is something that not everyone does.
Yeah.
More and more people are going to those digital dice.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. I'm just kidding.
I've been using them
Fine.
lately.
If you need to roll 12d8, whatever,
Yeah.
use a roller. I don't care. So I write everything into just a big document, and that would include the entire text of a recap, and then a little almost like a table of contents for all of the other stuff, place descriptions, but then also a general list of the order of events for the session. And then that makes it so I can, copy, something didn't happen previous session, I can copy it forward, that kind of thing. Most of the session takes place there. But then I like to actually print out the stat blocks, especially bigger encounters like the T-Rex or the dragon. Actually have the physical paper in front of me so I can, make little marks and, if there's something they can do once a day, cross it out after they do it, that kind of thing. I like that. And then I also have just a clipboard with a bunch of blank sheets of paper on it for any other little thing. And I always have a regular pencil and a red pencil here just for having two different layers of attention to things. And of course, 10 tabs of 5e tools. I have one open to the class page, one open to the items, and, it's...
Yeah, I mean, I think the four of us definitely have different ways of approaching, referencing as a DM.
Mine is to ask Scala.
But I will say, I think all three of us gave Jeppy a lot of, how are you fucking doing this when he says he's doing everything on an Excel sheet?
Oh, man.
Maddening. But if it works,
I loved it. I'm happy to, now that the season's over, I'll find this is we'll do this later, but I'll find an episode where I don't mind sharing some of the things and I'll screenshot what it looks like. It might make more sense.
Jesus.
But yeah.
Oh, I also have, I printed out a blank spreadsheet for initiative order type things, just so I can track turn, check people off as they go, and other incidental details. And
Ailment's dead remains a very funny moment.
That was,
me.
I don't remember when that was, but I remember saying Ailment's dead. Yeah, one of them got murked. It was an enemy, but yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. That's awesome. Yeah, at some point we should all take a photo or a screenshot of our setup. Andy, if you have a 5e tools from season 1 lying around, I would love to see that. I don't know if you do, but holy shit, that'd be cool. Anyway, let's shift gears, and I want to talk about the stuff that isn't always part and parcel to D&D, which is music, sound, and art. Those are some home games have bar music in the background, but this is something I think we do to help fully paint the picture for the audio medium, which is adding music and sound and then producing, working with Alexa to produce artwork for every season to make it all come to life a little bit more. So start with music since Andy's here. And actually, Jimmy as well. I want to hear from you both about through lines, things that have been happening throughout the seasons, whether it's thematic music moments or similar approaches to sound design that have carried you through these 4 seasons, the differences, the similarities, all that stuff.
Ooh, this is such a big subject. So I think from the get, I was really happy to have this project as an outlet for music making. It was still really in a pretty scary place during COVID when we actually started this. I mean, this was spring of last year, not even summer, but early spring, March, April, when we were really, starting to work on the very beginnings of this. And so having this as a musical outlet really meant a lot. Before this project, I had quite a bit of arranging and transcribing background, just classical music background, a lot of film score study and different things along the way in college and grad school and stuff, just as part of my musical training. So it was definitely something I was comfortable shifting into. Okay, well, now I'm actually doing original film scoring rather than just transcribing things and other stuff like that. When it comes to my first endeavors like Theros. I definitely was pretty ambitious in hindsight. I really did approach it like, this is radio drama. This needs to be like heavily underscored. And I was writing like upwards of an hour's worth of music for these episodes on a weekly basis. Original content, original themes. And that was very taxing. I knew I wanted to approach it from a way a lot of early 20th century film music is done, which is the way a lot of early 20th century and 19th century opera is done, which is relying heavily on themes or leitmotifs, which is all of the main characters and the main ideas and even the main locations all have these little themes that are always reused when those things are being talked about, or if they're characters, if they're speaking, if something is happening. And so from a thematic approach like that, scoring D&D becomes pretty linear. It's like, I give a Gran. I give a theme to Gran. I give a theme to Clix. I give a theme to Andromedy. I give some themes to all of the major gods that are going to be in the story. I give a theme to Akros itself, and you just come up with all of these musical themes, which may take no time at all. Jeppy fucking gave me an idea for Clix's theme, and I was like, all right, I can make this work. Or they could take like hours just to be like, I don't know if this sounds good or not. I need some time with this. Mm-hmm. And just really developing those is honestly, at the beginning, what takes the longest, because once you have them, then scoring an entire season really just becomes about developing these themes, modifying them, creating variations on them, and going from there.
Yeah, and then I'd imagine also, Andy, like making decisions on like when do they start to crescendo in the overall mix of, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like, I this could be incorrect, but I'm going to use something that may not be correct, but it still paints the picture on what I'm trying to say. Like, if Hematite is searching for other cats in the finale of Eberron, starting to bring whispers of the Cat's Eye bar music in, stuff like that. Like, those kinds of decision making also, I imagine, you can't make those decisions until you know what those themes are and how they may play on top of what is happening before that moment.
For sure, yeah. I can't even look at actual scenes themselves. Like, I can't look at an episode's music. I can't look at what I want to do for an episode's music if I don't have like a theme already written. Like, unless it's a new thing. If it's a new character, like when Hematite was first introduced, I had to sit there for a little while and sort of play around and be like, what is going to sound good for this character? And then
you found
sort
it.
Of go
Spoiler.
With it, right? So it's not like I have to, I do everything at once. I sort of, as it comes into the show, then I sort of sit and work with it. But I would say, like I said last week, I definitely felt a need to change up how I was approaching scoring this by the time we got to Eberron. And actually, again, Jeppy gave me some really good ideas about what he wanted Eberron to sound like, which was very different. Sorry. Fuck. Icewind Dale.
Theros.
God damn it.
Got it in one.
Got it in 3. Jeppy had some really great ideas for Icewind Dale's music, and it was very different than Theros or Ravnica, and that actually really helped give me a direction, which allowed me to write a lot quicker.
My favorite moment is I gave Andy ideas. So when I gave Andy the idea for Clix, I actually wrote a theme for Clix and said, make this better. But for Icewind Dale, I was like, here are 3 songs for, like, here are some vibes. But my favorite part was like, and at this point I knew what Wink was going to be. And I had given Andy Cult of Luna and Philip Glass. Cult of Luna is a post-metal band and Philip Glass is Philip Glass. And then Scala drops in the chat, here's what I'm thinking for Wink. And it's just this fucking honky-tonk bluegrass as fuck banjos. I'm like, Andy, you have quite a task ahead of you, my friend, to make these all work together. And they did, but...
I mean, that's indicative of everything we do, is mixing together all these different characters who speak differently, have different intentions, and come together for a common goal.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Without really, spending such a long time getting into this very specifically musically, I approach it very thematically, I assign themes to characters and different things. But then also a lot of it has to do with the seasons themselves. Theros is very orchestral, a lot of brass, this very sort of classical sound. And then when we get into Ravnica, there's actually quite a lot of different synthesizers and other keyboards, heavy organ sound, which is a very interesting sort of crossroads of classical and sort of modern sounds, which I really enjoyed doing. Obviously we just talked about Icewind Dale a little bit, but even also in Icewind Dale, it's a lot more sort of ambient. I got to really expand on just creating sort of sounds rather than all of these, big reoccurring themes, which I really liked doing. And then when we got into Eberron, it sort of turned a little bit back into sort of classical, but also there, is this whole, jazz swing element with the radio show, which was very unique and fun to work with. And I talked about that a lot on a couple of table talks, but, Eberron's music was really unique as well. And I feel like, I feel very satisfied with how I've been able to make the 4 different worlds and the 4 different seasons sort of sound different musically from each other.
And I don't want to I really want to take a moment to really praise your range as a composer for all of these. It's really on display if you listen to all 4 seasons, just the variety, the deep variety of sounds that you compose, and with still, I would say, a unique personal style that is consistent. And yeah, I think we just, I at least want to acknowledge that while we're on this topic.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not just instrumentation. You have like a good idiomatic understanding of the styles you're working in. I think whether that's this very broad romantic orchestral stuff or like jazz combo.
Yeah. I said this in, I think, a bonus in a table talk, so I'm going to say it again for a wider audience. I had once told Andy that if he ever wants to pursue even higher levels of education and they ask for a thesis, to tell him to go fuck themselves and hit him with the old pods of the multiverse.
Maybe for a composition post grad work that would be acceptable, but
one thing. Sorry, go ahead. If you have more.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for the compliments. I like I've said, I am very happy that this is an outlet, but I'm even more happy that I've been able to balance this in a sustainable way, because sure, I would love to spend like 12 hours on every episode, but this is a project that has deadlines, and I'm very happy with where I am now with it, and I just hope that it's still a good listen in the state that it is.
Hell yeah. One more question for you, and then I want to talk about sound effects. We talk a lot about what we plan on doing for round 2. So this question is similar to that, which is like, is there anything you haven't done yet musically that you're hoping there is an opportunity or an avenue to do as we start our second round of seasons here?
I can't honestly answer that until I know what actually happens in all of the seasons. I can definitely say, off the top of my head, Theros 2 is going to be pretty different from Theros 1, simply just by the methods in which I was scoring. I was still using mostly GarageBand, and the level of MIDI files that we were using, the level of quality of MIDI files that we were using was nothing compared to the very end of Theros and then into the rest of the campaigns.
And time of recording, you're you're working on the Theros premiere right now, right?
Time of recording, I am about to start the Theros premiere. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got you. Cool. I'm excited. Okay, so you can't speak. So I wasn't sure if it was like, fuck, man, I really wish I got to use the concertina in one of these episodes.
I don't really think about it that way. If there's like a particularly different character, like there's this one that we've got in Theros 2 that I know will probably sound pretty different than a lot of the music that we've got so far.
We're all smiling because I think we all know which character that is.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right, so talked about music, but let's do kind of the same here with sound effects, I guess. So Jimmy, like, yeah, I mean, we talked about kind of like theme and evolution over time. What's that been like for like sound effects?
It's been a lot of fun. So as both of you know, we've already recorded an episode that hasn't come out yet about production. We get a little bit into that, but yeah, I have so much fun every week just coming up with like different interesting sounds. So I made a list here of some of my favorites. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in with some first thoughts, like, I mean,
we all know
what jumps out.
But
the one, yeah,
the one,
the best one,
cerebral jelly.
The cerebral jelly.
Yeah,
that is up there.
Okay, it's not just me who thinks that.
that was definitely a highlight. Honestly, for me, it's like the vocal effects on all of the gods in Theros.
Yeah.
Like
that.
Yeah. Like the first time I was like, "Whoa, Jimmy, this is incredible," was like Perforos. I was just like,
for me, it was fucking Hargot in the first episode.
Oh, like, sure, yeah.
Hargot,
that's right.
But like Perforos was like, I don't know,
another level. Like,
let me ask you this, Jimmy, because this is a theory I had, and I know a little bit about production, but not as much as you. As a listener, I was like a lot more, not just thought, but like actual layering, effort, and number of effects went into Perforos than anything that had come before. Is that accurate?
I think so. Yes. So that actually was the first thing on my list here, because I did go loosely in order. Voice effects, Theros gods, and then next line, Perforos' chamber. So that whole sequence in general, I remember putting a lot of time into, because there's a lot going on there, right? Perforos' voice, it's not just like a big booming voice, because that's easy to do. It's also got like a metallic quality to it. It's almost like Darth Vader. It's got like a tremolo type of underlying thing to it. And also it's got like some automation in the track where there's the whole chamber vibrates when he speaks. And so if you're listening with headphones, you can feel this low frequency that resonates with his voice. On top of that, you also have Volkos in the background, like pinging on this anvil through the whole thing.
Yeah.
That rings out through it was just one of my, I think maybe one of the first times that I felt like I really accomplished something with that soundscape.
It was extraordinarily good.
Yeah, certainly did.
Another standout for me, and I want to mention it because it's so different than just VFX, is like thinking about an environment or a space's sound. And while I do think the wind in Icewind Dale is really good, I think for me, like the jungle sounds in Eberron really were fucking great at painting a picture of the space that we're in for an extended sequence of events or scenes or time.
Yeah, and I noticed on the ambient noise, you made some subtle changes based on as we were moving through the jungle. I remember like the ambient noise as we got closer to the giant village was a little different from earlier in the adventure when we were like in the deeper jungle or in the lower part of the jungle. I just thought that, again, Jimmy, you always have really great attention to detail, and I picked that up, and that was neat. And I'm sure there's some other things I didn't pick up, but I remember being like, "Oh, that's subtle."
Thanks for noticing that, because that was when we're going from one place to another. I'll actually like create both soundscapes and then fade them. So if it takes us like 20 minutes to get from one place to another, or like a transition from day to night, actually that's something I did a few times in Theros. You can hear some of the like maybe the birds in the trees fade out. Like over 20 minutes, it gets softer as like the crickets come up, and then it just becomes night eventually. Yeah, so I was doing a lot of that.
To go with like a lot of what we've been talking about in these anniversary episodes of like where we started from, how it evolved, and how that might inform what's coming next for us. Like, is there anything that you started doing differently in regards to SFX, VFX that you'd think like, I can't wait to do more of that now, coming fresh into a new round of campaigns?
I definitely got my like tool chain and like workflow all nailed down now. So, you know, it was pretty haphazard for the first couple of seasons, but now it's pretty much like, you know, you load in an episode and I'll start by nailing down the spaces. Like, are we indoors or outdoors? Where are we? And I'll kind of key that in, and then I'll put in the ambient noises, anything that indicates a space. And then the last thing I do is put the discrete effects over the top. And so I've gotten pretty quick with just being able to like do that. And so I think as a result, I've been able to get to some more detailed stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I feel good about the process and the consistency of approaching it. Also, listening back to some of the early episodes, I think it took me a while to really figure out how loud stuff needs to be in general. Just background noise is too loud, you know. Mm-hmm. But now I think I've got a pretty good balance now. I wanted to bring up here from my list one particular transition I was really proud of was because I really liked the scene. You know, this was Scala set the scene here, but I like took this as an opportunity for SFX when we took Gorp and Zorp's taxi service from the middle of the city out to the Beast Havens in the 3rd district. And so it's this like really detailed, like it's a cityscape with this really detailed like machinery of this car, some random noises triggering at random times, and slowly fades into this like natural setting. And then, you know, Andy's music, the Beethoven inspired stuff fades in, and it's just like a really nice transition as that car drives away and we're just now in nature, you know? I liked that transition a lot.
Yeah,
nice.
I really did. I do remember like the sputtering and like misfiring of the contraption's engine. I did like that a lot.
Yeah, that was one of those random effects. Actually, there were a few of those. I did that mostly in Ravnica. Anytime we were in a cave and there were dripping noises, those were triggered randomly. Clork's Chaos Bolt was a synthesizer that just played a random pitch every frame, and the machine, you know. So it's cool stuff there. Anyway, looking forward to. I was listening to some of what we've recorded for season 5 already, and I'm looking forward to some.
I
of
don't
that.
think I've heard a single sound effect yet. So
I haven't put anything out. I actually haven't even worked on it yet. I've just been listening.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to approach it as a chunk this time.
Oh, before we move on, I gotta express my affection for the robotic voice filter on the Warforged in episode 1 of Eberron.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
so
the
good.
elevator encounter. Oh man!
Yeah, at the top of the elevator, at the top of Kenneth
man.
Tower.
It's basically Perforos, but without the pitch change.
So good.
It's that same type of
It's so good.
metallic rattle.
Yeah, that was straight up awesome.
Just that whole scene was so good.
It really, truly fucking was. It was so good.
Thanks, guys.
There's a lot of great stuff in there, and we'll come back to SFX with our favorite stuff.
Yeah, we will.
I know Alexa isn't here for this, so I don't know how much we'll have to say about art, but definitely a good plug for our usual table talk content. We usually do every season at least one table talk with Alexa. We talk about art, a bunch of other fun shit. But yeah, I mean, I think that's been another really fun journey for us, especially because like we're like everything that happens in the episodes, like we know what's coming. And what's really cool is like with the artwork, it's like some or all of us get to be surprised every season with like what's going to come between the thumbnail art and the character art. So I love that part. It's just like, this is one part of what we do that isn't done by the four of us, and it kind of leaves a little bit of surprise for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is cool.
Definitely. Yeah, so Alexa does both the cover art for the seasons and then also the character art every season. Some excellent work. We should put all the characters together in one, one
that would be really cool.
See them all side by side.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I know Alexa in one of our table talks has expressed interest in like reevaluating the Theros art because it is so different than the other ones. I know that like coming into Ravnica is where Alexa really solidified what the style was for the characters. But imagine just this line of those fucking tunes hanging out. It'd be fun.
Yeah. But yeah, so with each season we've talked about the art in Table Talk. So go check those out on our Patreon. You can hear more of us talking and not playing the game if that's what you're into.
You just like us as people.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move to favorites, but since we're talking about art, we'll keep on art. Let's start with actually like our favorite art. Like which character, which thumbnail, like which one for each of us kind of like does it.
The Eberron cover.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, yeah. I agree. Yeah. And usually, real quick, for anyone that doesn't do our usual table talks, we usually don't allow each other to agree. Like, we all have to have our own unique, but like, there are only 4 thumbnails, and so I think it's fair. We can have the same one. And I agree, Eberron is also my favorite thumbnail.
Yeah, that one's based on a real painting that she did.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, you can see it. The background is like it's actually painted.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I actually mocked up I designed that cover, and then she like gave it her artistic, she came in and actually did the detailed artistic work of it after, seeing my layout there. Just brought it to life. The little moats and things. I just love it.
I love the moats. They're so good.
I'm like still the biggest fan of the Ravnica background. I gave Alexa a wall of text, and she made it into something really cool looking. Just the like most serendipitous little detail was that the die had 10 faces that were visible, and there's 10 guilds, and each of them have one of the color pairs for the guilds. Is just such a cool little touch that I like so much. I have it as my desktop background right now.
Oh, nice.
It's so good.
That's awesome.
I like it so much. Yeah.
That one's so different from the other ones too.
Yeah,
but it's there's just so much detail in it though.
Yeah. And it really matches the tone. Like I think the font, when I look at that font, I also hear the very like brass led music that Andy developed. Like they marry well to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe
I hear bells
me.
And organ when I see that.
I mean all of it, like the whole soundscape. I'm just thinking of the tubas that come in, but like all of that. The font, the typeface that she chose for Ravnica really matches the music, which is cool.
I also want to point out that speaking of color pairs, the season 1 cover from Theros also has the color pairs for our 3 characters prominently featured there. So you can see, the red black, the red green, and the blue black.
Yeah, not to knock that Theros like cover art. I was blown away. Like it was the first one she did, and just like the effects she got out of like the star field background, man, yeah, that
Nyx thing with all the swirling colors.
Yeah,
awesome stuff.
Character art, I think we also got to give it to Eberron. I mean, as I do love, I mean, this is just probably because it's Wink, but Wink's art is just so fitting.
Yeah. Wink's art is my number 2. Istvan, though, is my number 1 art. I think that.
Okay.
Yeah, Istvan's my favorite character art, without question. It's so good. They're so phenomenal.
Just like the the trio together of the Eberron art.
Yeah.
Like when she put all of them on the same piece, and you see like the height differences and like the jungle, I was like, this is the best this has ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like Illapel's shitty face, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely have a fondness for Clark. It's just very, it's just all there, right? The like, there's a lot of similarities, not because they're between, I think, the Clark art and the Wink art that I like. Just that very like, they're both very sort of in your face type characters, they're both very like, they are who they are, right at you. And they both, that sort of unpretentious attitude really comes across in both of those pieces.
I think Alexa's a great artist in general, but I'll say that she's really especially great at capturing expressions.
Yeah.
Every character has, like, you can see who they are in their face.
And even some
perfectly.
of the art that Alexa's shared that have nothing to do with the podcast, I think that's always been true. And anyone interested, she is taking commissions. Lil Bug Big Garden on Instagram.
Shout out to
Check it
the
out.
secret hematite art that is on our exclusive Discord.
Yes. If there was ever a real reason to subscribe to our Patreon, it's that you get to see some exclusive hematite art, and it does not disappoint. So good. Moving kind of on the same subject of characters, I would love to go through and each of us name favorite and least favorite NPC between all 4 campaigns.
Like, as a person,
NPC.
like, just who did we...
The worst NPC and the best NPC, not each season, all across the board, in totality.
Jeez, Jeffy.
I know, it's tough. It's so tough. I don't have an answer. I usually have one in the chamber for these. I have to think about it. Like,
I think Niv Mizzet
favorite?
was probably...
Yeah, they're so good. Oh man. The real God. From Icewind Dale. There's so many dislikable characters.
I expect that everyone's answer for least favorite is going to come from Icewind Dale.
Fails empty shirt man.
Drog.
No, not the
Tragan.
not the like bodyguard. The guy from the debate.
The Patsy.
Yeah.
Tragan.
Yes. I'm gonna have to go with Tragan.
It's a good one.
Yeah, fuck Tragan.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck Tragan. Tragan's a really good choice.
With, like, honestly, by the time we got to the end of Icewind Dale, runner up to the one on the other side of that debate, who was also kind of a shit.
Roman.
Roman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about just the less shitty of 2 shitty options.
Yep. All art should be true to life a little bit, right?
Best though.
Yeah. Best is hard, yeah.
I can think of a bunch I like, but to say best
is
yeah.
tough. But we got to start doing it. I'm going to start, and if I regret it, it's literally not a big deal. Volkos, because Volkos is great.
Okay.
Volkos is great.
Yeah, I
There you
absolutely
go.
stand Volkos.
You know? Because like none of us can say Basil Gurch. It's off the table. It's unfair. So it's got to be Volkos.
Yeah. Basil Gurch is S tier.
Basil Gurch is S tier.
Cannot be played in this format.
Exactly. Yeah. Least favorite. I think it is Tragan. I would agree with Tragan because I think like my vocalizations for Fail are like he sounds more unlikable because he's more slimy but like Tragan's spineless. I fucking hate Tragan. I think that's a good answer. I'm gonna join you on the Tragan bandwagon.
I've got 2 for favorite. They're very different. One, I do want to shout out Zinni in this conversation.
Yeah, good choice.
To wherever she showed up was just like such a like charming and endearing scene work. Very, very good. But then also we said Niv Mizzet, but man, Scala's portrayal of Ral Zarek was just unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Why, thank you.
Oh, man.
Ral and the other one, both of them together.
The one that comes to my...
What's his name?
Why can't I think
Oh,
of-
Tomic.
Tomic Rowan.
Yeah, Rel and
Yeah.
Tomic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ral and
both
Tomic
of
were
them.
so good.
You know.
Ron and Tomic were very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I praised you for this last week, but the way that you do really great character work with characters that are established in universe, which is a
Right.
really hard thing to do.
It's very hard.
I appreciate that. You know, I'm going to take the fucking compliment. Thank
Excellent.
you.
Nice.
You leveled up.
Did level up. Wait, no, I don't think we heard from Scala. Favorite and least favorite.
Yeah, I know. It's so hard. There are so many colorful characters.
Who was the guy at the exchange who was like still there at the end? Who got trapped in the bubble?
Silas or
The one who helped you. Oh, do you mean Korzak?
Oh,
The
Korzak, the
Rakdos guy?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got trapped, yeah. Yeah.
that's a good least favorite, I think.
Yeah.
That is
Fuck that guy.
Okay. Oh god, this is such a hard question. I'm sorry.
take out the dead space.
Okay,
Take
so
your
my
time.
least favorite was Croswell. Croswell came in at the end and just was
The heel
like,
turn from Croswell.
It wasn't even that much of a heel turn. It was there the whole time. He was like he talked down to Warden like the first time we met him, and we just thought he was like this misinformed like old scholar, but you know, we didn't have a ton of interactions with him, but like the more it happened, it was like, you know, and especially at the end where it was like so goddamn patronizing to Hematite, it's just like, that rubbed me such the wrong way. I can't stand intelligent people who like have no compassion to accompany their intelligence. That just drives me up the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
But shout out to Jimmy for saying, and I remember the body language Jimmy used. There's no better place to learn. Like you threw your hands up in the air. Fucking great. It was so well done.
And my favorite NPC. Fuck.
It means you all created good ones.
No,
I
yeah,
didn't,
like,
but you all did.
and all of you have mentioned good ones that like would have made good ones for me to choose. Like, I could easily see myself choosing Volkos or Zinni, but I want to bring something new to the table. And you know what? Yeah, my guy, Ezek.
Ezek. All right.
My guy, Ezek. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right,
Oh,
cool.
man.
Cool. All right, another toughie. Favorite episode from each season.
Yeah. Wow.
I can take
Okay, I don't
this.
think this is a toughie for me. I definitely have
this
my
is-
favorites.
To me, it's super easy. But go for it.
From our own or from all?
All.
From every season. So season 1, I'm not sure if this was episode 9 or 10, but it was I think this was episode 9. Episode 9, the Siege episode. That was just like a lot of fun. Like, just so many cool things happened. We started with a split party, and like, Jimmy and Jeppy had their own like private boss fights. It's just so cool.
Yeah.
Just absolutely a like banger episode. For season 2, episode 7, not even close. That was the episode I actually came in with zero plan whatsoever
that
and just turned it over to.
That was not the auction. It was the one before the auction.
No, that was the one right before it, where you went to the Violet Rose.
Yeah,
Or
okay.
not the Violet Rose. The Wilted Petal.
Wilted Petal.
You went to the Wilted Petal.
Oh, God.
Bullshit happened.
Yeah. Amazing.
Season 3, episode 5. Like, no combat episode. Just straight drama. And I'm a sucker for drama. And especially drama that has a political bent to it. So, yeah, episode 5, when we're just talking about what are we going to do with Ezek, and the ending of that episode where I'm like, well, you know, I'm quitting working for these chumps.
Yeah. Nice.
And season 4, this is a little trickier. Because like it's tricky because the radio show is there.
Oh my
And,
god! Fuck! I didn't even think about that. I
Like-
had my answer.
like-
and now I don't know if I do.
Like
that.
I think
What
like
a skew.
yeah, it's like I there's like some early episodes where it's like I would just be picking it like purely for the radio show episode. episode 4. Not much happens in episode 4. We're like trekking through the jungle, but that's like the bank heist episode of the radio show, which I love so much.
Yeah. That episode's almost half radio show.
Yeah, I want to say episode 4 for that reason alone. But like episode 11, also very good, like good combat, lots of high emotional moments. But I feel like I'm double dipping there, so that's sorry.
I'll go next. It's so close between episodes 8 and 9 for season 1. So just to be a little different, I'm going to say episode 8, Solemn Reunions. It ends with literally every character having the cliffhanger of cliffhangers for their arcs, which is fucking awesome. And that alone,
I literally could not have imagined that. Like,
I know, like,
talk about not planning.
That's the beauty, is like that happened because of player agency. Like, we all chose those things, and it led to all that drama. Season 2 is episode 1, Meet the New Boss. I think all the character intros are great. I love the title so much, the interplay there. It also just musically, like, I think it really does a great job of saying, hey, we switch things up every 12 episodes. And I thought, like, I just love that moment. And I think season 2, episode 1 had a lot to do to tell the story of our podcast, not just its story of Ravnica. So I love episode 1. Season 3, episode 7, New Hire Orientation. I thought I did a decent job with a dungeon and an encounter and gave you all a pretty fucking cool cliffhanger. I was really proud of that episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Season 4, The Cat's Eye, episode 8. It just the energy in the room when we recorded it. The radio show was fucking phenomenal, but every minute of that episode, from recording it to hearing the music to hearing the sound effects for the first time, was a joy. So, feel pretty good on my answers.
So, season 1, the aforementioned Perforos episode, I think that's episode 5.
5, yep.
Where we also go on to fight some Cyclopses and then meet Anax hardened in the Forge.
Yeah.
It's like a really like tight, quick episode because of the way they got edited, but just those 3 huge things happening in quick succession like that, and they're all solid encounters. Season 2, I like the episode where we track down all 3 leads. We go all over the city and we go and meet all these like weird characters and there's people all over. We get a real sense of the flavor of every different part of the city and who inhabits it, and love that.
I think that's episode 4, Persons of Interest, I think.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Yeah. I like in season 3 the Scala just mentioned, I think it was episode 5 where we end up at the end, we're kind of not sure if we're going to continue being a party next episode. But then I like the follow through in episode 6 with the debate and everything. That was a really fun set piece there and really fun to produce. So, and in season 4, I'm just going to say the first episode. I think I came in with a lot of ideas, and the way that you guys it was great. Everything came together exactly how I wanted it to. And still it was surprising in all the right ways. I loved it.
Real quick, just because it's so worthy of being mentioned. The name of episode 5 of season 3 is Barrage to Bryn Shander. Just would be remiss if we didn't get to throw that in.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it.
Okay, my turn. I am gonna say Hardened in the Forge. I'm right there with Jimmy for all of those reasons. As much as the Siege episode was great, episode 9. That was just like, there was so much going on. I was just, anyways. I just had it. Which one? Shit.
What happens in it?
We'll tell you the name, and then you can say it like you knew it the whole time. It's fine.
the one with the gyre.
Things fall apart.
Yeah, thank you.
Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Which is a reference to a William Blake poem.
Yes, it is. For Ravnica, I'm gonna go kind of selfish with all of these, so that's fine. For Ravnica, I'm gonna go 6, just because of the incredible description of this horrible scene we found Edric in. Was crazy. 3, I will
do season 3. I'm gonna say one nobody brought up, and that's Rescue Team.
I knew it. I fucking
yes.
come on.
Not only for the song cycle
Rescue
that
Team!
became the end of that
Rescue
season,
Team!
but yeah, that was a joy. Also, like the party's ballad was written in that episode.
I think it was the end
of
the
episode 9,
episode.
Cold Hearted
Right.
Bastards. But, it's also the fucking Everett thing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And season 4, I have to go with Quantum Uncertainty. Like,
yeah, you do.
as good as getting into the cat's eye was, just the entire like dungeon that was the cat's eye was just so much fun. Really great. Shout out to the T-Rex episode, but there you go.
Awesome.
I was going to
good,
name that episode Schrodinger's Cat, but didn't really make sense. So,
No, all of the episode titles are perfect and just
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So good.
Scala writes the episode titles, by the way. I don't know if we've ever said that on mic.
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
And the plot, the synopses.
And the synopses, actually, is another one. Yeah. We talked about SFX and VFX, so, anything we missed in terms of, like, favorite highlights of those?
Why don't we just do like a rapid fire for these?
And let's include music, too. Fuck it. Let's do them all.
Perfect. Here's one that didn't get brought up. The end of the exchange where the Rakdos attack, and then there's this explosion, and then I did like a stage vocals effect on that demon, and then the amp feedback fades in, and then there's just like this. It's fucking like Black Sabbath, basically.
Yeah.
And he wrote the music. It's incredible.
had a
Just
lot of
that
fun
whole
with that.
package there. I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Music, I'm going to rattle off 2 quick. The ice wall, the ice climb, and then the fucking heist music. Forget it. It was so good.
Not
So
even a
good.
problem.
Not even a problem. You just write them shits is good. Not even a problem.
One that I'm really proud of, as many of the musical moments as I'm very proud of doing. One of the first that hit really hard was sort of the first quote unquote boss fight in Theros, against the dragons in Mount Velis. There's just this huge buildup, and then this like wall of sound for boss music.
Yeah.
It's the first time I used Kid. It's just this whole moment that I'm just really happy with how it came out.
Also, the beginning of that fight, there's like 3 beats that are lined up with the die rolls for initiative.
Yeah. Jimmy lines
Yes.
up the dice rolls with the drum fill. Like,
Yeah,
oh
that
my
was some
God.
silly shit, but I
So
thought it was
clever.
effective. So I felt the same way that you just said about the end of episode 6 in season 1 when the Eater of Hope shows up, and the voice effect blended with this like growing like tritone dissonant awful synth sounding thing. Scary.
The use of string swells in Eberron is another one that I fucking love so much. Oh my God. Such a good choice.
Yeah. Oh, and the screaming high, like French horn parts whenever Istvan is, waxing poetic about the flame.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Also, the use of like metal percussion
For fucking
and
Jib?
like
Or for Istvan?
for Istvan.
Okay.
And for
fucking
Jib.
Yeah.
And
for Alfonso.
the like steampunk percussion for Clork. I love those things.
There's a lot of cool
and-
shit going on with Clork's music for sure.
I'm also a fan of little musical things like the like creepy chimes you did for Tezzeret.
Oh God, Tezzeret's whole ass sound.
Tezzeret.
Yeah.
I like the continuous like drum solo of the Vinzola chase.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff too.
Vinjola Chase is just hilarious to me. Unfortunately, I just laugh. I love it though. Anything
There's
else?
an ice cream truck here,
There's an ice cream truck.
so you might hear that in the recording.
You know what? And we'll use it in one of the next seasons. It's fine.
Great.
If there's nothing else, let's get to the hardest one. across all 4 seasons, favorite moment.
Oh, only one? I thought it was going to be one per season. Jesus.
Fine, we'll make it easier. 1 per season's fine.
Oh God! But that now it's just the same as favorite episode.
Yeah. No, we already... Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it then. Let's make it hard. 1 favorite moment.
Damn.
Fuck you, Jeppy.
Oh, from episode 3 of Icewind Dale.
Episode
All of them, actually, from Icewind Dale.
all of them.
I think that was 3. It was either 2 or 3. It's like, fuck this DM, huh?
It might be when I first faced off against Bippo and Boppo.
So you know what's crazy is like of all the scenes I've gone back and replayed for the fun of it, that's maybe it's up there. That one I've listened to a few times. It is so much fun.
That's some of the most fun I've ever had doing the actual role playing part of the game. So yeah.
You like living like a bum?
Oh my God! It just comes so easy to Jimmy.
Yeah.
God. Fuck.
Okay. The doing the Cold Hearted Bastard song. Like,
Nice.
I love Wink. I didn't know how much singing I was gonna do when I played my bard character, but you know, I figured I needed to take some time and sit down and write us a couple verses of a little folk song, and I really like how it came out, and I think that was a bit that I went back and listened to 10 times when we dropped the episode, because I was so happy with how it all came together. Yeah,
For sure. Yeah, we got to get those on SoundCloud.
I wish season 5 were on the table because there's some roleplay I'm really happy with in season 5. And earlier I said it's gonna be something from Eberron, and I mentioned it already, but it's not actually. I think my favorite moment is when I turned into Kinasa and knocked on the door as Clicks.
Yeah,
that was pretty fun.
that was great. Fun. That was great. All right, well, there are so many. There are so many from every season. It is going to be when Wish comes into play against the Eater of Hope.
Oh, fuck. That's a very good one. Fuck.
Damn.
You can't make it up. That whole sequence, that's my pick.
Even though as a DM, your combat literally just crumbled from
I don't
your
even
hands.
care. I don't even care.
This is phenomenal.
I don't even care. And the rolls that happen to get there, Jesus.
Insane. That's a really good pick, actually. Yeah, it's a really good pick.
And that's going up against so many other things that I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think those are all really good.
And
it's funny
no one even mentioned us flipping the fuck out that Felbarash was from Eberron.
Yeah, it's up there. That's up there for me. It's certainly in my top 3. Yeah. It's funny, everything everyone mentioned is something that I have gone back and re-listened to because I liked it so much. So that's great. That's awesome. All right, well, usually after favorite moments, we call it. So I guess we'll do that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, cool. Hey, so again, next week, we're going to do something a little different, something way less structured. We're going to play some games and some bullshit, and then we're going to reveal the Season 5 trailer, and then we're going to do all of this shit over again for the next year. Because we're fucking idiots, and it's awesome.
4 more seasons.
And I regret nothing.
Pods of the Multiverse renewed for 4 more seasons.
It got greenlit by us.
Yeah.
We decided we want to do it again. That was it. That was the whole process.
Pretty cool thing we do.
It's a pretty cool thing we do.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Happy anniversary, friends.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.